Hello everyone and welcome to Fable-top, the first episode on the brand new channel. This is a very exciting day for us. Might not see it in our faces, but trust me, on the inside we're both probably reeling with excitement, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're now episode 7, and I believe, Diddy, you have the topic of the day.
I do. It is how popular culture presents D&D.
Yeah, it's especially in like the last year or two, I've started noticing, especially like in older stuff I used to watch. Like over the years, there's been a lot of reference. I mean, I believe, I don't remember the episode it was on, but we did talk about the old like Monsters and Mazes movie and the Dungeons and Dragons movie as well. So we kind of had that as a jumping on point. But is there anywhere specific you would like to start?
Oh, I suppose we could go in chronological order, and the earliest thing I could find, apart from specific Dungeons and Dragons movies, was E.T.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that far back. I assume they're playing, like, first edition, or whatever it was called.
When was
just Dungeons and Dragons.
When was E.T. set? What year was it?
I did not look that up.
Allow me to look it up. No, I don't want to load up
1982.
1982 is when it's set.
Yeah. I
D&D.
think that was...
Might have been 2nd edition. 1974, 1979, 1999. They had Dungeons and Dragons Basic, Dungeons and Dragons the BX version, Dungeons and Dragons Beck Me version, Master Set, and the Immortal Set.
Right.
I believe that would still be based entirely off 1st edition.
I would assume so. All I could really see...
yeah, 2nd edition was 89, sorry to interrupt.
Right. All I could really see was that one of them rolled a 5 on a d20, and then the DM says, yeah, you lose 10 HP. So... I mean, that might have been how it worked in 1st edition. I don't know, but it seems a bit suspect.
Yeah, because I mean, that's something I found with like Big Bang Theory when they played D&D a few times, where they roll like I think Howard was DMing and Penny was like, "Oh, I'm gonna roll," and he's like, "No, I'm the dungeon master. I roll."
The DM, yeah, I've got it in my notes. Big Bang Theory, where is it? He says the DM is supposed to roll.
I mean, I could take some time to maybe gloss over the rules of 1st edition, but I'm fairly sure because Stranger Things was originally set at like the arse end of the 70s.
Yes.
And in that, just from memory, because I've only seen the 1st season,
Will rolls for damage for his fireball.
Yeah, so they're doing their own individual rolls.
Yeah.
Or the biggest irk for me is like Penny rolls a 20 and he's like, yeah, you killed the dragon. I'm like, but you know, like she didn't add modifiers, she didn't roll damage, like we don't know what she attacked with, like so the dragon might have had resistances, so it might not have done enough damage.
Yeah.
Like what? It's like Big Bang Theory had like scientists on set to make sure any visible science on whiteboards was correct, but they couldn't get one person just to double check that this is how fucking D&D's played.
Yeah, that line just irks me so much. The DM is supposed to... No, what? Like, you literally had, like you said, a team of scientists making sure everything was okay. You couldn't have just one person that knew how D&D worked.
What was the other one they did as well? It's like, I can't remember who. Someone goes, oh, it was Sheldon. He was like, oh, I'm just going to go. And Howard's like, no, sorry, Leonard was running this one. It was a Christmas one. And Leonard goes, yes. Oh, you walk straight into a trap, it detonates in your face, and you die.
Well, yes, but he did roll for that, and it was Raj was playing a spellcaster, I assume wizard, so a one-shot to a wizard is not...
it's not
entirely... Yeah, it's not unheard of.
But by this point, I don't know when that episode was filmed, so we was either in 4.5 or 5th edition at the very least.
I have it in my notes. Wizard is killed in one hit, season 6, episode 11.
Big Bang Theory, season 6, episode 11, was released on the 13th of December 2012, so they were on 4.5 at the latest, and yeah. I know 4.5 had death rolls, so surely Raj would have been able to, like, make saves.
Unless he was, like, first level, Wizard had maybe 6 HP, and this cannon does, like, 2d10 damage or something. Just killed him outright.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll never know. I would like to see if they actually put anything on those character sheets, though, or if they were just, like, blank, or they had, like, the script on the fucking character sheet. But I think there's been better representations of D&D. Like we mentioned, Stranger Things had a fairly decent representation.
Yeah, but the problem is with Stranger Things is it is just that one bit at the beginning of season 1.
Yeah, and then they just kind of based this whole Demogorgon thing around, like, oh, you know, like we played a game of D&D, then this monster turns up, so it has to be a Demogorgon, even though it looks...
Yeah, the figure that they use it's got kind of like... It's more like a Hydra. It's got, like, snaky kind of heads.
Yeah,
instead
because...
of, like, the monkey kind of heads that's in the monster manual. The
Demogorgon's a two-headed monkey with snake arms, ain't it?
Right.
So it might have just been like this.
A two-headed snake with monkey arms.
But, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything from the monster manual that comes close to the Demogorgon from Stranger Things.
God, no.
Like, I could think of maybe it being related to the Mind Flayers, but then they brought in Mind Flayers in season 3.
Yeah.
Which was more... I think I described it more as an aboleth, more than a Mind Flayer, but I don't know. It's just, I suppose it's just one of those things where it's like, D&D's hot right now, let's just throw some references in.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And then they based this whole, like, this hype that they get from Stranger Things, they then turn it into a D&D, like, starter set.
Yeah.
Like, they play D&D once in the first episode for about, for like, not even 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, it's literally just a description of where they are. One guy goes, oh, I bet it's a Demogorgon, and a Demogorgon comes out, and he's like, I fucking told you.
I can't remember his name, but the DM of that game says, I've been planning this campaign for 2 weeks. How was I supposed to know it would take 10 hours to play? Like, come on.
Must have been brand new to it. He must have just got his red box there and then.
Yeah.
I don't like... Because we both perused the same Wikipedia article, so we both pretty much have, like, the same kind of references in there. One thing I did completely forget about is there's, like, a whole episode of Recess based around D&D as well.
I did not see that.
Did you not? So, I can't remember the group's name, but they it's when TJ is in detention and he's sent to, like, the room with all the kids who don't go out. And they introduce him to... It was called Daggers and Dragons in Recess. And I don't remember the super specifics of it, but... Yeah, there was, like, a flash montage of, like TJ, like, building kits and painting models and him, like, rolling dice over, like, a grid map.
Right.
And he's in, like, really shit cosplay of, like, one of them was in, like, a wizard's cloak and, like, one of those weird cone hats.
The stereotypical wizard hat.
Yeah. But I would have gone through to watch it, but I am very lazy. anyone who's watched videos over on the Bonehead channel where I say, oh, I could do some light research, I never do light research. This is as close to research as I ever do.
Yeah, literally, the research, like, we said, oh shit, we need to do a podcast today, and I was like, oh, what's my topic going to be about? Pop culture? Sure. Literally went on Wikipedia and watched all of the snippets of episodes like an hour ago.
Yeah, I checked the wiki, and then I checked around Reddit, because there was a Reddit thread about it, but the Reddit thread I saw was literally just regurgitation from the Wikipedia article.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, It Crowd, you showed me that clip from, or is it IT Crowd, whatever you...
It's IT Crowd, yeah. I have some notes. One of the players, Phil, casts a spell called Heal All, which I did look it up. Doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist, no.
Could possibly be Mass Heal, which is a 9th level spell.
Yeah.
But then Moss, the DM, says that your low-level magic attracts the attention of the Palace Guard.
So maybe it was like a... I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Maybe it was like a Prayer of Healing. There's another one that I use in conjunction with Beacon of Hope. I would load up the character sheet, but Roll20 is like super fucking slow. There are a couple of like level 2 and 3 healing spells that can like get multiple creatures. But they're like a healing word, mass healing word, cure wounds, that kind of... Like, I've never heard of a spell called Heal All.
Yeah, no. And so... This... Yeah, so Phil, the player, also throws a throwing knife. Moss says, are you sure it's quite low damage? And Phil says, it's alright, I've got a plus 40% chance of a critical.
What?
Yeah. He also then rolls a critical, I assume, because they all cheer, and then he just kills the guard outright.
The only thing I could maybe think of is, like, obviously some classes get, like, features and traits where, like, oh, an 18 or a 19 counts as a crit.
Yeah.
So maybe they just ramped that up. They've pulled some bullshit out their ass where it's like, if he rolls a 16...
I think that's the champion feat for fighters.
Couldn't tell you.
So it would be a bit weird if he was a fighter and had a healing spell and throwing knives.
I know Arcane Trickster gets a healing spell. I think, actually. I'm not actually going to say that as a matter of fact. Maybe he was playing a druid? It's just one of those things, like, we don't know what the writers were thinking, like... And like we both said, we haven't played older versions.
Yeah, that's true.
And I know things like Thaco were included. And we looked at character sheets and there were like percentages and all this shit. And I really don't get how people did it back in the day. But
yeah, old character sheets are just a mess.
Yeah. And it was something I was talking to Mark about actually back in episode 5, where he said like where he played from like Pathfinder and from beyond that. Like Pathfinder to 4 to 4.5 to 5 has like become so streamlined,
yeah,
that it's impossible to basically just like not understand.
That is the whole point, I think. They were kind of from first edition. They were trying to add more stuff because they had the fan base, so they were trying to add more stuff to make it. Like, they were just adding, oh, there's just one new rule here, just one new rule here. And, like, the original fan base were just like, yep, fine, I can get behind that. It's just one new rule, learning all of them as they go. But someone who wants to get introduced, it's like 100 different rules that you have to basically already know from first edition.
Yeah, I mean, I've read through the DM guide and the player's handbook like back to back twice, and I could not recount more than maybe a couple of paragraphs because there's so many different things that go into like any given situation.
Like you need a character sheet that someone is just going to be able to pick up, and like someone who is experienced or just a YouTube video can go, this is this, this is this, this is this, and they just instantly get it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably one of the great things about like D&D Beyond is like now there's not the need for paper. Like, you can still roll physical dice if you want, and if, like, Mark uses paper sheet.
Yeah.
But it's now at a point where everything is so condensed and streamlined and packaged nice and neat on D&D Beyond. You just have to take, like, a laptop or a tablet to a game, and you have, instead of, like, 3 or 4 sheets for your character, you've got it all there at a touch of a button.
It's all there. That's exactly what I used to do when I did Adventurers League.
Oh.
I just took my tablet and went on D&D Beyond.
That's pretty cool. See, I don't know anything about Adventurers League. I'm just assuming it's D&D with, like, a stricter rule set.
Yeah, basically, there's no homebrew at all. You have to follow, like, I think there's a toggle on D&D Beyond that you have to click on to make it so that you're allowed to play that character in Adventurers League.
Oh, okay.
I basically built this. I think he was a halfling guild merchant bard.
Okay.
That basically all of his abilities were centered around his ability to sell stuff.
Okay.
So it was just stuff like prestidigitation, distort value, dancing lights. It was basically all so he could just rock up at a marketplace, cast all of these spells that would make his stall look fucking amazing, and then just sell stuff.
You basically had, like, the D&D equivalent of Del Boy.
Yes, that was exactly it. He also wore like a lime green suit that he thought looked very nice, but was incredibly tacky.
Very gauche.
Yeah.
So, aside from TV and whatnot, there are a couple of examples in video games as well. And when I say a couple, I literally just wrote down the 2 that came off the top of my head. Fable 3 had a whole side quest where you turn up, like, they were called cultists, but they were just, like, D&D players.
Right.
And you get, like, shrunk down and put on the board, and, like, the whole time you're playing, they're arguing about, like, why has he got a +3 sword right away? He's only, like, level 1, like, arguing over stats and shit.
Oh, mate, I gotta go play Fable 3 now.
I think that mission, I don't know when it turns up. I think it's probably in, like, the second half of the game.
Right.
It's probably only like a half an hour long mission, but it was one of those things, again, at the time. I wasn't playing D&D when Fable 3 came out. So all of this was, like, going over my head. I was like, what the fuck is a +3? Like, what does that mean? And then something I mentioned to you just before we started recording was Borderlands 2 has an entire campaign DLC, more or less dedicated to D&D. Not just it, so it's basically like Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, D&D. If they just like Dragonheart, they all just got together and, like, made something.
Yeah.
The game in it is called Bunkers and Badasses. And we're at a point now where I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. It's called, like, Tiny Tina's Wonderland or something. It's basically they've turned a 4-hour DLC into what is hopefully, like, a fucking 60-70 hour campaign. Like, your chests, so, like, if you walked up to a chest, instead of it just giving you random loot, it would roll a d20. And then if you paid a currency called Iridium, you could basically then roll with advantage. So it'd give you 2 d20. And depending on what you rolled, it would then determine the rarity of the loot, like the loot stats. Natural ones would, like, throw grenades out of the chest at you. It was fucking great.
Right.
You fought, like, green dragons, red dragons. I'm trying to think off the top of my head more as well. So, like, it's been a while since I played it, but they do that whole, so, like, Tina narrates the DLC like a DM would. So it's like, oh, you arrive on a port on a boat and everything's all sunshines and rainbows. And one of the players is like, well, I thought you said this place has been overrun by a dark wizard. Why is it? She goes, yeah, you're right. The whole place is dark, gloomy, and it smells like butts. It's really, like, I would honestly, like, Borderlands 2 is such a good game in and of itself, but I think Tiny Tina is probably the highlight of Borderlands 2.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably plenty of other references in games. But those were the two that, at the very least, stuck out to me.
Yeah, I suppose we're leaving out specific D&D video games.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Dark Alliance came out not too long ago. Baldur's Gate 3 came out last year, I believe.
Yeah, and the Neverwinter MMO.
Yeah, that's something I actually played not too long ago.
I also played it. I didn't like it.
I joined in while they were in the middle of the Acquisitions Incorporated event.
Right.
So you turn up into Neverwinter, and then just off to the right of like the where you spawn in, there's like the Acquisitions Incorporated balloon. I think the building next to it was a tavern, and it had a yawning portal sign on it. I'm not too sure. I didn't play enough, and I didn't touch the Acquisitions Incorporated stuff because I wanted to get through the main storyline first. So I'm not sure if like anyone like Omin Dran, Jim Dark Magic, or like I should remember him because he's like my favourite character. He's played by Patrick Rothfuss. I'm blanking on his name. Viari, that's it. So,
the only one I could remember was Morgaine.
Morgaine, yeah. I think she came off of the C Team. Because you have Acquisitions Incorporated, then you've got C Team, which is like...
Yeah.
It's like, I think it's like a franchise of Acquisitions Incorporated.
Anyway, back to the pop culture. So, another one I wanted to talk about was Futurama.
Yeah, I have a small note here, but we'll see if my note matches what you want to say.
So, in Series 2, Episode 16, Anthology of Interest 1, when Fry wants to find out what happens if he doesn't get frozen, he meets Gary Gygax, Al Gore, Michelle Nichols?
Don't ask me.
Uhura, and Professor Stephen Hawking. Because they're Al Gore's like action rangers or something like that. And they drive around in a school bus. So when he first meets Gary Gygax says, "Hi, rolls a D20 and a D6, looks at the result and says, 'Pleasure to meet you.'" I'm like, what are you rolling a D20 and a D6 for?
I think we had this conversation a little while ago, and you told me you think you sussed what it might have rolled. I think you said it might have been like a charisma roll or something, or maybe like an insight.
It may have been insight, I guess.
The only reason I remember that is because I was playing Cry of Fear when we was talking about it, and I got jump scared to shit, and like those memories have kind of merged. But I do remember you saying you think you might have sussed.
What would be like if you were rolling that? I think it was. I think they were on 3 or 3.5 at the time of that episode.
Maybe rolling for deception, like lying to him.
I don't know. Like, yeah, did the for example, maybe the modifiers told you what other dice to roll?
Maybe. Or maybe it's kind of like, you know how sometimes if we can't decide, we'll like give arbitrary numbers on a dice. So like,
yeah.
So it's like, if I roll higher than a 10, I'll be nice to him. But then it doesn't explain the +6.
Yeah. So, and also in the feature-length episode Bender's Game.
Right.
One of the players says he's going to search the body of a unicorn that Cubert has just decapitated by rolling a 10 on a D12. So I assume that could be a damage roll. Like, we could have missed the have missed the attack roll. Searches the body, and Dwight, the DM, rolls 2d8s.
First thing I can think of is maybe like a treasure table or a trinket table.
But yeah, 2d8s would start from 2 for a start, and then go to 16. That's not a very big trinket table.
What did he pull off of the body?
60 gold pieces and a piece of cloth with the unmistakable stench of dwarf urine, which was the same stench they found on the bed linens at the inn.
See,
I've watched that episode too many times, sorry.
So if it was just left a, like, piece of cloth with dwarf urine on, I'd be like, yeah, trinket table. But if it's something they've smelt before, then it's obviously like a fucking plot-relevant item.
Yeah, I suppose, like, if he's rolling 2d8, he could just be rolling for the gold, and he could have rolled a 6.
Yeah.
Just roll it, whatever comes up times 10, that's how much gold you got from the body.
I'm going to have to go and watch this episode, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to watch that one because I do want to see the clip where he meets Gary Gygax. Like, I have a clear image in my head, but one thing...
Does anyone want to play Dungeons and Dragons for the next quadrillion years?
I mean, I would. But one thing I don't know, because I haven't seen the last season of Rick and Morty yet. Do they play Dungeons and Dragons at any point in, like, season 4?
Not that I recall. I think the closest they got was that whole dragon fucking episode.
So why do they have a D&D source book?
Because Rick and Morty was big.
Christ. I mean, I'm not going to put... Like, I did like Rick and Morty. Like, memes aside about it, but... Yeah, that just kind of confused me, but...
Yeah, I assumed there was going to be some tie-in episode where they would play Dungeons and Dragons, but off the top of my head, I can't remember a thing.
No, I can't. Yes. I mean, going back to, like, the Gary Gygax thing, one thing I did see on the Wikipedia article was a section called Notable Players. And there are some names in there I didn't expect to see.
Right, so we already know Joe Manganiello.
He's on that, yep.
Vin Diesel?
Vin Diesel's on there.
Said?
Yep. Terry Crews.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he did an episode with Matthew Mercer on, I think it was when it was still a Geek and Sundry. He played like a blacksmith turned barbarian, I think.
Okay, I can see that.
Chester Bennington is on this list, as is Tom Morello. Matthew Lillard, the guy who played Shaggy in the Scooby-Doo movies.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, and I knew that beforehand because he did turn up in an episode of Critical Role.
Want to challenge me?
There's only 1% of my power. Elon Musk has gone on record to say he enjoys Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, of course he does.
Robin Williams, that's not a surprise. Robin Williams seems like...
that's not a surprise.
There's also... So there's some ones that are marked unreliable source. Where is this thing gone? Where are the players? Oh, here we go. I swear I saw Judi Dench on this list.
Dame Judi Dench.
Yeah, it's one of the ones that's marked unreliable source, though. I saw David Mitchell, and I was thinking, like, the guy from Peep Show.
I can.
But it's not.
I can picture that.
It's an American novelist who's also called... Yeah. Dwayne Johnson, except it doesn't say how or why. Matt Groening, but that wouldn't be a surprise. Judi Dench, actress, unreliable source. There's also...
There's no explanation as to why the source is unreliable.
No. Helen Mirren. Quick cut-in. Don't know why I said Helen Mirren. I meant to say Jamie Lee Curtis. So whenever you hear Helen Mirren, replace that in your brain with Jamie Lee Curtis. Thank you. I know is a big Street Fighter fan. Like, she plays Street Fighter fan on an almost professional level. And she was... I can't remember what movie it was. It was one that came out... Oh, she's involved in the Borderlands movie coming out. She's helping produce it, I think.
Right.
Because she's just a big nerd, and that's great. River Cuomo from Weezer. Which, that kind of makes sense, because Weezer did a cover of Take On Me. And Finn Wolfhard, who played What's-His-Face in Stranger Things, plays a young River Cuomo in that music video. Stephen Colbert, he's gone on record to say a few times that he used to play. He had, like, first edition, like he had the red box. Drew Barrymore has also claimed to play. The list goes on, like Stephen King, George R.R. Martin, Marilyn Manson, Moby, like the American guy, Mike Myers. Yeah. There was a porn star on here as well. Kevin Smith, but that doesn't surprise me because he said he's played with Joe Manganiello.
Yeah.
Cole Urban, Vince Vaughn, Gerard Way, Will Wheaton, Joss Whedon. I want to round off with this fucking porn star.
Yeah, so I'm going to go through my list of inaccuracies and... Like, I'm going to go through everything. Some of them I've got a question mark next to because they might be, allowed. Other things, definitely not. Other things probably would. So the first thing we got is Howard makes an off-the-cuff remark and a joke for the show because it's been written, and Sheldon the DM rolls persuasion for him and manages to get past the guard just because of an offhand joke that clearly wasn't meant to be part of the game. So that's a bit suspect. Sheldon, I think, rolls... No, it's Howard. No, it's Leonard that's DMing. And rolls investigation for Howard.
See, this is
coming back to the whole the DM is supposed to roll kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, fair enough if he has, like, the stats in front of him and he knows what his modifiers would be.
Yes, this is something I wanted to talk about with community. Because Abed, the DM, is basically just rolling a d20 every time someone at the table says something.
Okay.
So what I can imagine happening is, because Abed has autism, fairly high levels of autism, so I can probably imagine that he has got all of the stats in his head already, and he'd just be able to roll a d20 and just know the outcome of something that would happen. If he was perhaps using just standard damage instead of rolling for damage, he would be able to just work it out straight away.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm with you on that. I couldn't see any other way. I mean, at least that would be a decent explanation over why Leonard and Howard are only ever doing the rolls.
Yeah.
And then if he's only rolling d20s and he's not doing, like, modifiers out loud, it's because he has them in his brain, so it does make sense that he's not voicing.
Yeah. The next one on the list for Big Bang Theory is Raj playing possibly a wizard gets killed in one hit. That is entirely plausible.
That is.
Right, the only thing that's plausible in Series 6, Episode 23 is new dice smell. That's the only thing that's plausible in Series 6, Episode 23. I think the next is Howard saying that the DM is supposed to roll, which no.
I mean, again, I could... If anything, what I'll do is, through editing this, I will do some, like, research on the side and see if there was ever an instance in a previous edition of D&D where the DM would roll for the players. But I can't ever... Especially because we've both seen how complex the character sheets have been so far. I can't imagine there would ever be a time where the player wouldn't roll. Especially with things like Thaco, where they've then got to do, like, fucking long division math to try and figure out if they hit a person or not. I just can't see a DM ever just doing a roll 20 and being like, yeah, you hit.
Yeah, I've got in my notes, Series 9, Episode 22, rolls crit, no damage.
Just straight up kills whatever he...
Yes, that would have been it. Yeah, just rolls a crit, but doesn't roll damage. Which, I mean, if you are using just standard damage, then I guess, but...
I mean, I think, like, an example of that would be when we played yesterday. And we, like, you quickly realised we were doing enough damage in a roll that if we hit the AC, we just basically killed these like grunts.
Yeah, because most of your damage modifiers were +5, and all the kobolds just had 5 HP. So if you beat the armor class, you would just hit them. And you would kill them.
Varud, like his minimum damage he could roll was enough to one-shot the kobolds that we were up against at this point.
Yeah.
When I fired off that...
And the Acolyte as well.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Like, when I fired off that Scorching Bray, I took, like, 3 enemies out, and I was rolling, like, minimal damage, basically. But, I mean, but it's understandable. I think we all realise, like, you know, we're meant to be level 1, but because our characters are carrying over from other campaigns, like, some things aren't going to stack properly. I think for us as well, it was just like a good feeling to just like blast through something instead of like
fighting your negative selves for, what was it, 8 or 9 rounds?
Yeah, that was
the longest like combat we had ever done before that. I think we had only got to maybe 2 or 3 rounds.
Well, that's
at any point before that.
That's what me and
Nope.
I'm gonna have to censor that. That's what me and Zenfire figured out as well. When we did the Venom Fang fight in Thunder Tree, we worked it out as like, I think we all had like 3 turns. So we basically walked in, and then 12 seconds later we'd killed a dragon and fucked off.
Yeah.
Which is fucking mental.
I think we filled the time of that very well.
Yeah. The last note I want to end on, porn star's name was Kimberly Kane. There we go. She plays D&D. But yeah, guys, that is it for episode 7. Welcome to the Fabletop Podcast channel now. I am going to leave all of the previous episodes up over on the Bonehead Collective. So what will happen is over the weekend I will be uploading all of the previous episodes. So come this Monday, you will have episodes 1 through 8, with 7 and 8 being these 2 episodes. So I'm really bad at outros, it turns out. But yeah, we hope you come along for the ride. We hope we entertain and answer some questions you might have had yourself. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to discuss, let us know down below in the comments. And that's that. Thank you for watching. I've been Bonehead.
And I've been Diddy.
And we will see you in the next episode. Ta-ra!
Goodbye.
Goodbye.